Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 4. Module 4 is the first module where you will turn in a major piece for just creative writing. In this case, it'll be our first short story assignment. And so I'll talk about the requirements for that as well as the other things that you'll be doing in the module. So the first thing I want you to do is going over the readings and resources. I've got some stuff in here for you to look at, including just more information about, we'll kind of be going through most of the chapters in this book here, the lessons in writing fiction. You can see there are quite a few lessons that relate to different aspects of writing short stories. So, well, I think we covered show versus tell, but creating characters, building a setting, all of that kind of thing. So you're going to be looking at characters and point of view here because your short story is a point of view story. And then there's also a section from the other book, Experiences, Not Explanations, that covers just kind of basics on plot and that kind of thing. So I try to put as many resources as I can in here. If there's ever anything that is not clear to you, you can always send me an email and I'll see if I can find an additional resource that maybe explains it in a better way. So this is the first thing that you're going to do, and that is we have several assignments in this class where you are going to be analyzing a professional work. So something that somebody else has written outside of the class, preferably one written by a professional author that's been published, in a professional manner, collection of short stories or whatever. And that is what we're going to be taking a look at in a couple of different discussion boards. So the purpose of this assignment is to give you a chance to really look at what is out there, because otherwise, really the best way to get better at writing is to do more reading, because you can see what other people do with their writing. And so your first step is to find a short story that's been written by a professional author. You can use this one here, your Introduction to Creative Writing. Each lesson has an example short story in it. So you guys have already looked at the story of an hour, but there's some other ones in here, and they're all Miss Brill, White Heron, The Necklace. A lot of these are ones that you may have read in like a literature class. They might be ones that kind of stick out to you, or authors you've heard of before, and those are perfectly fine. But there's not very many in the textbook. There are also, I believe, a few in your other textbook, the Experiences, Not Explanations one. So you can look in there as well. And so you could use that if you want, or you can just look online. And I pulled up this website here, just called libraryofshortstories.com. And there you can see that there are quite a few short stories that are written by authors that you might recognize. So, Mark Twain, O. Henry, Arthur Conan Doyle, all the Sherlock Holmes. They must be in alphabetical order because it's all the adventures of. But then each one, you can click on the PDF and you can look at. These are all just open and free for viewing. These are not protected by copyright. That's the only issue with finding short stories or any published work. Really is we're limited to stuff that's open source, because if it's not open source, then they're going to make you pay to look at it. So anyway, you have lots of different options there. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to create a post for the short story that you found. So let's say you want to do The Adventure of the Empty House. So you're going to hit reply, and you're going to, put in the author's name. Hopefully I'm spelling it right. And can't spell, and then we've got, you have now selected that story, and if you hit reply, then you have saved that story for yourself, because I don't want repeated stories. So each story can only have one student posting about it. We want to have a big collection. We don't want to have 5 or 6 students doing the same story. So you're going to cover a short story. Not a novel length work, so make sure it's short. And then author and title, and then I would also put in, which one did I pick? This one. So I would, probably just copy and paste the URL would be fine. So once I posted though, these three little dots here allow me to edit my post. So I can post my story there and just sort of claim it. And then when I decide that I'm ready to actually go in and finish my post, then I can edit it. So in your post, you're going to give me about 2 full paragraphs, 10 sentences total, that just goes over the summary of the story. So what is it about? And then reviews it. So what is your opinion of it? What did you learn about reading it? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? What were the characters like? You know, how did they do with the setting? So you think about some of the terminology we've already discussed. What are some things that you notice that the author is doing based on some of the aspects of fiction that we've already discussed? What point of view is it written in? What sort of characters do you see? All of that. And so make sure that you're giving a good kind of analysis. There's a review of, so a little bit further than just a summary of what happens in the story. You're really pointing out those aspects of fiction that you see. Once you finish that, then you can do your response posts, and you're looking at other short stories that other students have posted. Go through and read some, choose your 2 favorite, and write some responses to them. The responses can be fairly short, so 5 sentences or so, just kind of explaining what you thought of the story, whether you agree or disagree with the assessment, what sort of details you see that maybe somebody else hasn't posted about, that kind of thing. So this is really just a chance to see professional work that's been posted and then respond to that. So that's the first assignment in the module. The second assignment is to actually write your first short story. And your first short story is a point of view story. What you're going to do with this assignment is choose a well-known story. A lot of times students will use fairy tales because they're pretty easy. But you're choosing a story that exists already, and you're going to tell the story, so retell the story from the perspective of the bad guy character. So first person perspective, and then instead of Little Red Riding Hood, we're actually from the perspective of the wolf. And so why did the wolf eat Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother? What is it that prompts him to do that? So this idea is that you take a well-known story that your audience will recognize, and then you put that perspective from the bad guy. It's the easiest way to do this is choose a story that has very clearly bad characters and good characters. Otherwise, it makes it a lot more difficult if there's in a gray area. You'll notice that, there's a lot of stuff out there now. It seems actually fairly popular with, like Wicked just came out, and we have the Joker has his own movie now. So there's a lot of characters where the bad guy has now got a backstory and some justification for their actions. I don't really care how far into the lore that you go. So if you're doing like Darth Vader or something, you may want to just limit the story to like him meeting Luke for the first time or something like that. You don't have to go all the way from his childhood as Anakin all the way to his death or something like that. You can choose a short part of that story if you want. But the idea is that you're really trying to justify their actions. So that's kind of the main point of this assignment, is to turn that point of view around. So storyline's well known, first person's perspective, those are the main 2 criteria. We want those bad guys' motivations, make their actions seem reasonable, and then I give sort of a word limit to kind of shoot for, but basically you need a full story. We need a beginning, a middle, and an ending. The only challenge that a lot of students have found is if you choose a bad guy who dies at the end of the story, what do you do about their death? So sometimes they'll cut off, right before they go. So, right before the Wicked Witch goes to Snow White's house or something like that. That's fine. But we need some sort of conclusion to the story. They're planning on doing this the next day or whatever. And we know as the audience, the next day is when they actually die. That's fine. But you want to make sure that you have that complete story arc and the full plot line. Otherwise, it doesn't feel like an actual story. So make sure you're doing that. I've got some links for you to look at if you need some inspiration. And then I've got a bunch of other stuff here in the module. I try to link some things in that will help you out. Some plot diagramming, if that helps you out to kind of outline your story. I always recommend outlining story. It helps when you get stuck writing. And then some formatting information for how it should look. And then the actual submission spot. So the submission spot is where you'll start the assignment. You'll link. The information here is mostly just the formatting and what you should be looking for. And then I have the link at the bottom is your rubric that I use to grade it. So you want to be thinking about like exemplary and proficient are the categories that are going to give you the higher grades. So A's and B's versus C's and D's. So be reading through your story and kind of make sure that you have, you know, that it met the requirements and that kind of thing. So just kind of keep in mind, we don't have, we're not doing any like pure editing yet. You are turning in a final draft of this to be graded. So make sure you proofread it. Use the online writing lab if you need to. That's always an option. And then, or have a friend or a family member look it over. You can always send me work to have me look over it. It's not cheating to do that. So if you just have questions or something, just, you know, shoot me an email. Otherwise, I hope you have a great week.